In tonight's other major story, a gunman in New York City last night assassinated Meir Kahane, the fiery rabbi who founded the Jewish Defense League and advocated driving all Arabs from Israel. And today, in the Middle East in the occupied West Bank, 2 elderly Palestinians were gunned down, apparently by a Jewish settler acting in retaliation for the killing of Kahane. Authorities fear those may only be the opening shots in a new round of Israeli-Arab violence. Our coverage begins with Richard Roth.
Thousands filled the streets outside a Brooklyn synagogue this afternoon as calls for vengeance echoed in a crowd that came to show its grief.
Certainly revenge is the order of the day, and certainly punishment is the order of the day. I hope it comes, and I'm sure it will come.
The militants of Meir Kahane's life was an angry mourner at his death, but so was the passion he inspired in a cause held sacred by his supporters.
Rabbi Kahane was someone who gave his life for the Jewish people, and in that sense he was no doubt a great man.
Kahane's violent death was as stunning as the rhetoric he employed in life, the words that made him notorious.
The Arab is a cancer in our midst. And you don't coexist with a cancer.
The 58-year-old Brooklyn-born rabbi was shot in the neck at a New York hotel last night, moments after speaking to a Zionist group. His gunman ran to the street, seizing a taxi before being stopped by an angry mob and shot and wounded by a postal policeman. Authorities say he is 34-year-old El Said Nosair, Egyptian-born, a city maintenance man charged with murder.
Have you ever asked the police to help you out?
Kahane's springboard was the Jewish Defense League he founded under the motto, "Never Again," a reference to the Holocaust. The JDL was outspoken on behalf of Soviet Jews, but criticized for militant tactics. Kahane had lived in Israel since the early 1970s, preaching the politics of extremism and finding enough support to win a seat in Israel's parliament. He held it for just one term, barred from re-election when the legislature banned political parties that advocate racism. Expel the Arabs from Israel, he said, on a crusade that estranged him from the establishment and put him on a collision course with controversy. He referred to Arabs as dogs.
I want to make it clear to those dogs that are standing there, there is no such thing as an Arab village in the state of Israel.
His idea of transfer, of expelling Arabs, has gained increasing support, so that his legacy of violence lives on beyond him.
Kahane was called a prince in a eulogy in Brooklyn, just as spokesmen for most Jewish organizations were describing him as an extremist. Here and in Israel, where he'll be buried tomorrow, Kahane was still a source of controversy and anger, in death exactly as in life. Richard Roth, CBS News, New York.
Shockwaves from the Kahane murder spread across Israel to the occupied West Bank, where an elderly Palestinian couple was shot to death in an olive grove, reportedly by an Israeli settler. The tears of village mourners were mixed with cries of death to the Jews. Hatred echoed a few miles away in Jerusalem, where grief-stricken Kahane supporters called on God to kill the Arabs.
I'm sure and I hope that tens more will die and will suffer.
Israeli officials told CBS News that Kahane's assassination could not have come at a worse time for the country. Arab and Israeli tempers are boiling, fueled by increasingly bloody confrontations, the latest in Gaza this weekend, that have given new life to the Palestinian intifada. Alive, Kahane preached a message of hate, calling for the expulsion of all Arabs. Many Israelis ignored him then. His death may change that.
More and more Israelis are getting won over to the idea that there is no other way.
There's definitely a need and a call for the separation of the Jewish and the Arab peoples.
We won't have much of a choice if they keep it up, if they use guns.
The Arab terror is getting worse every day. They have to go. There's no other way.
Only a handful of elected officials showed up for the minute of silence in Parliament to mourn their former colleague. But many were deeply worried about the effect his killing would have.
I'm afraid that this assassination will give a push forward to racist tendencies in our society.
As Arabs prepare to bury their dead, both sides fear a widespread outbreak of violence.
It doesn't matter who is killing who. What matters, killing will continue.
No one here tonight is arguing with that bleak prediction. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, Tel Aviv.